Have you ever wished to buy a house, a place you could call your own? Well, I'm going to tell you about the very first house I ever owned in this episode right after this. Hello, I'm Lucas Kitchen. Thanks for being with me. This is more to the story. So this episode is a little bit unique from others. If you're listening on podcast, this episode's still going to work for you, but I would encourage you to take a look at the video version on some of the video platforms because I'm going to add a lot of visuals in this episode today. So if you don't have access to video or you're listening while you're driving, please don't try to look at it while you're driving. So I want to tell you about the very first house that my wife and I ever owned. It was 2010. We were engaged and we were preparing to live in a house together once we got married. And so we found this great little house on JC Drive in Longview, Texas. And I signed on the dotted line and I moved in, and she was going to move in once we got married. It was in this amazing little kind of oasis of trees right next to the fairgrounds. And so it had originally, in generations past, been a pecan orchard. And so it was a beautiful little hiding spot away from the world, and we loved it. It was such a quaint little place. We put a lot of work into making that house into a warm home for not only our marriage, which was the house that we came home to, but for my daughter, Eiley. She was born, and this was the house we brought her to as an infant. And her first couple of years were spent in this house. We have such good memories and so many great photos and videos of her playing. There's our garden. We had chickens, and Eiley just loved the house as far as we know. She doesn't have any memories of it, but it was a great experience living there on JC Drive. Well, as the years passed, we realized that this house may be just a little bit small for a growing family. So we decided to sell it, and we found another young family with kids about our child's age, and we sold it to them. And we were so excited that it was going to continue bringing joy to another family. Well, through the grapevine, we heard that things did not go as we expected. We expected that house to stand for another 50 or 100 years, but it didn't. You see, because it was next to the fairgrounds, the city had different plans for that house. They bought it from the owners that we sold it to, and they began to tear it down. We were driving by one Saturday morning, and I couldn't resist getting out of the car, taking my camera in, and videoing a walkthrough of this house that we had lived in, that we had poured our lives into, that we had spent so much energy, time, and money to make into a wonderful place to be. And now it was just destroyed. There's holes in the walls. There's debris of brick all over the ground. You can see in certain places light coming in through the roof that has been removed. Stuff that I don't even recognize hanging down. It's amazing that the remodel of the bathroom that we did, that we spent so much of our energy and time on, is just destroyed. And so this place that had been our safe haven had become a nightmare, a place that you couldn't even spend a minute in without getting glass in your feet, or it just was such a wreck. And this gave me a lot of really odd emotions that I didn't really expect, because this had been such a place of harmony and peace for us, and now it was a nightmare. And I couldn't even wrap my mind around the kind of feelings of forlorn that this gave me. And so this house was no longer a home that you could live in. You can see there how it had been cut to pieces and All of the bathroom implements are in the yard along with shattered remains of what the house used to be. And so this haven was no longer a haven. It makes me think about how we invest so much time into our projects, our property, our big ideas. And seeing this house so smashed like this, it reminded me of how temporary life really is. It reminded me of how things aren't as permanent as they feel. We feel like things will last forever, but they don't. In fact, this week we went out to the location. There's the kids. Eiley there, the oldest, she was the one that was born into this house. And there's our youngest. And there's where the house used to be, which is just now a field of grass. You can see the kids sifting through the grass looking for pieces of evidence that we lived there. But there is no evidence other than rocks and a shattered piece of a drain pipe that my middle son found. It's so odd to be in this field where the house used to be and to have no evidence that it was ever there. An incredible reminder that the things that we invest ourselves in are so temporary. They just don't last. And I had so many nights where I laid awake thinking about the next project on that house, and now there is no house. There's nothing more than a field. It reminds me of this verse from 2 Corinthians 4:18, which says, "While we do not look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal." In the next chapter, Paul goes on to say, "For we know that if our earthly house, this tent, is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens." Now, when he talks about this earthly house, I think what Paul is getting at there is probably our body. But he uses a house as an analogy. Your house can burn up or fall down or be bulldozed, but when your body goes, you're done on this earth. And seeing the house destroyed is a reminder that our bodies too, our earthly houses, they will eventually be destroyed. And I hope that you have invested in something eternal by the time that happens. The very first investment that you can make is, in a sense, a free checking account in the heavenly realm. What is freely offered to you is eternal life. That's life that lasts forever with God. The way that you get it is by simply believing in Jesus for that free gift. And at the moment you do that, you have that gift of everlasting life. But once you have everlasting life, I hope that you then begin to invest in the kingdom that's to come. And the way that you do that is you come into a life of discipleship. When you begin to obey Christ on a daily basis, you are investing in the kingdom to come. You are investing in the reward that you will receive once that kingdom comes. So don't forget that everything you touch today will not last. But there are certain aspects of your life that touch on the eternal. Those are relationships with others, especially other believers, and relationship that you have with God. I hope that you'll think about the temporary nature of our life, but also the eternal nature of our existence when we believed in Jesus for eternal life. Well, thank you for watching. I'll be back with you soon.